Hello, hello, hello. It is me, the new media Forbidden Door SP3. We are live on the True Hill Heat YouTube and Twitter for our ROH Death Before Dishonor 2022 Roundtable review. We are here to discuss the huge show from last night from Ring of Honor from Lowell, Massachusetts, the classic between FTR and Briscoes, the rematch of the year, as well as 5 other titles up for grabs, brother versus brother, 4 matches on the 0 hour pre-show. So we got a lot to discuss. I am here with the perfect person to talk some Ring of Honor with. He is an historian of Ring of Honor, in my opinion. We even got a nice little Twitter exchange where I had to list every single Ring of Honor champion in history. Today, you know him, his voice from Post Wrestling, as well as the GRAPPL app podcast. Brit Wrestling is alive in this man, although it's dead on his show. He is Richard Benson, aka Benno. What's going on, good brother? Welcome back to the channel. It's been too long.
Yeah, mate, up to be back, mate. It's you say that about Brit Res. You're one of us now. We've adopted you. You're part of the Brit Res family now. We are both recording in daylight at 4 p.m. UK time. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, made up to be here, mate. I'm a little bit tired as I was at Rev Pro all day yesterday in Manchester. Then, as you now know, stayed up late for the pay-per-view. You know the pain of the Brits, mate. You know what it's like with these 4 5 a.m. Finishes for these pay-per-views. Not too bad last night, so can live with that.
No.
But yeah, I didn't realize that was you on the Twitter. I thought it might have been one of the guys going back and forth with me. I feel like the ROH title stopped at Nigel McGuinness homicide. That's about the end, is it not? And then Jay Lethal had it a few times. I don't really. You say historian. I can give you the history up until about like 2014, and then I'm just like, Jay Lethal had the belt. I don't know.
To be fair, I would say the history stopped then. It became I would call it AEW BC from 2014 through 2018 when it became focused on the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes and all of the Bullet Club stuff. Yeah. We'll call that AEW BC. Now we're in AD, and now we're in a new generation, a new era of Ring of Honor. We want to hear from all of you guys watching us with us live in the live chat. Let us know what you thought about Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor 2022. Of course, there's super chat donations. It's the best way to support the channel. Show some love to the contributors over here, as well as have your comment highlighted on screen. That is the best way. We'll try to highlight as many as of your comments as possible. We got Hassan here saying hi there. We also got Bone Daddy here with us saying what's up, SP3 and Benno, True Hill Heat. We're live, pal. Yes, indeed, we are. And yes, we are here to discuss Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor 2022. Overall, what was your thoughts on last night's show, Benno?
Yeah, I kind of went in very curious as to what the setup would be, what the show would look like. You know, this is like it's a junior brands for AEW at this point, isn't it? Like I've seen a lot of talk from like Meltzer and the like saying, "Oh, why is it not just branded AEW?" And it's like, I mean, why is every Marvel movie not called Avengers? Like, there's a strength to having a smaller or a different, story being told, a completely separate entity to the main body. So my main curiosity was in how it would look, and yeah, I love the setup, love the production of it. Crowd were up and down through the night. That's kind of a positive in some places and a negative in others, I'd say. But yeah, they gave me 3 great matches. I'll take that on any show. Rest of the matches, the bits I liked and bits I didn't like, but all in all, ran well, good time, great for me and you. Didn't finish too late. I'll take that on a Saturday night pay-per-view.
Absolutely. I'm liking the Saturday night pay-per-views as well, because I tend to be more tired on a Sunday, and those Sunday nights going like 5-6 hours. That's why I think I enjoyed going to Full Gear live, because I remember it was on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. I could go home on the Sunday. That was nice and pleasant. So I like Saturday night pay-per-views, being that I'm now officially a part of the Brit wrestling community, being here on excursion longer than expected. We got Yorzara Hart saying good morning, Jets. Good morning to you. Good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. We got You My Boy Blue saying good morning. Slam and Sammy Joe saying I'd say that was AEW BC and now it's AEW BCC. I like that. That's how we think.
I love it.
That's how you think. Yes, good stuff. Good stuff. You my boy Blue also saying Saturday night pay-per-views are the best indeed. And Brooklyn Blake, yeah, we're gonna be talking about that as well. Do you guys know anything about Gresham shutting down his Twitter after the opener? I kind of knew what was going down since he came out without the mask or flag. Sucks. We're gonna talk about that when we get to the opener on the main card. But first, let's talk about the 0 hour pre-show. They had 4 matches on this pre-show, so it's not like a WWE pay-per-view where you could skip the first hour and the pre-show of them talking. They actually had some wrestling on this show, and they started off with an ROH original in Colt Cabana going one-on-one with Anthony Henry with JD Drake of the Workhorsemen. The crowd was very much into Colt Cabana from the very beginning of this match, and this was a solid type of like technical wrestling type of matchup. JD Drake did get involved to give Anthony Henry a couple of advantages throughout the matchup. Colt Cabana went for the Billy Goat's Curse, some of his staples from his time in like Ring of Honor. Henry slipped out, went for a German suplex, but Cabana dead weighted him, countered into the Billy Goat's Curse again. JD Drake got on the apron and to distract Cabana, but Cabana ran him into Henry, and then he dodged, hit a back suplex, hit a top rope moonsault for the pinfall victory. I thought that this was a really nice way to kick off the show. I gave the match 3.25 stars. This was a nice match. Cabana looking good out there in the ring. Anthony Henry, I think, is somebody that they do need to kind of sign and lock down for this new era of Ring of Honor, especially him and JD Drake as the Workhorsemen, who are one of the better independent tag teams in the world. They would fit in nicely in the tag division for Ring of Honor if they're going to get a TV deal and stuff like that. One thing I do want to know, and I will ask you, Benno, if you notice, Colt Cabana didn't look happy. Like at the beginning of this match, this wasn't the typical happy-go-lucky, boom, boom, Colt Cabana. And then after the match, he looked like Eddie Kingston at the end of Barbed Wire Everywhere. Like he didn't even seem happy that he won. So it was that kind of like, took me out of things a little bit and alluded to what we've been hearing about in the news of him being removed from AEW due to his tumultuous relationship with CM Punk. So what did you think about the match and Cabana's overall demeanor?
Yeah, it just makes you sad, doesn't it, really? Because, like, yeah, Cabana and Punk, like, that whole thing, you just want them to make friends again, don't you? And it just, I think the fact that it never comes up in angles in AEW, you know, it was right there on a plate for MJF to mention it, and he never did. That shows you how how serious this is, and how, you know, they're not allowed to talk about it so much. And yeah, I think it's a real shame. And I think Tony Khan being pushed on it this week and asked questions about it and refusing to comment doesn't read well either, because the only thing you can intimate from it is that it is true and it is politics that mean that Cabana's not around in AEW. I wondered if, remember that promo Hangman Page cut on Punk where we all kind of wondered why he was so angry and why he was talking about, you know, Punk being a bad influence in the locker room and stuff, and he didn't give any specifics. I wonder whether it was this, because it definitely feels like the evidence is mounting. And yeah, Cabana's, you know, legend of the indie scene. He set up a lot of things that, you know, wrestlers take for granted now as far as merchandising and, you know, the podcasting and all the other things he had influence on. So it's right that he's got a role in this company, but yeah, maybe he's not happy with the fact that it's this, you know, doing these 0 hour shows for ROH rather than being involved in my mainline AEW. But yeah, match wise, I enjoyed it. Anthony Henry's, yeah, you're right, great talent. JD Drake as well. Like, that guy needs to stop messing around with the wingmen or whatever else, you know, he was doing in AEW in the early days. Them two need to just be given a proper run as a tag team. And maybe if it's not happening in AEW, this is the place for it. Because wasn't JD Drake supposed to do an indie on this night and got pulled literally just to do corner duty here? So that tells you maybe there's plans.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's the case, because it seemed weird that he was pulled from Limitless, and then
that was it.
Limitless Wrestling, and then he was just a corner guy when they announced the match on Rampage. It was very strange, but hopefully you're right that it is kind of a a foreshadowing that they are going to use him in an important role in Ring of Honor. Like they need to start building out this Ring of Honor, whether it be with the women's division, which we will talk about a little bit on the 0 Hour show, where they kind of establish someone who may be on the rise to back to an ROH Women's World Championship run. But the tag team division, especially with it closing this overall show, they need these guys like the Workhorsemen to kind of fill things out.
Totally, yeah. And I'd say great talents as well. So hopefully that happens.
Absolutely. We had a fantastic hype video that aired about the main event with FTR and the Briscoes, highlighting the storied career of the Briscoes and how they are the greatest tag team in ROH history. FTR knows their legacy is at stake, and Caprice Coleman pointed out that the Briscoes now know what they are dealing with and they learn from their losses. So I love the production of the overall countdown show. I think that they could have got more eyes and more. I know they did mention later in the show that they set the record or fourth highest pay-per-view buy rate for a Ring of Honor event. I think they could have got more eyes on the show if they did the countdown on TNT following Rampage like they usually do for the AEW pay-per-views, because that countdown had some good stuff on it.
Yeah, it's a weird scenario right now where, if ROH isn't, I mean, I hope it is going to be on TNT or TBS or something within the family, but if it isn't, Tony Khan's using prime real estate on those networks to sell this pay-per-view. It's not because I think the interesting thing is, it's not like AEW owns ROH, it's Tony Khan owns ROH. Strictly speaking, they are completely a separate entity, and there's got to be some, pushing and pulling as to, how much TV time he can, use up for this. And yeah, maybe it is telling that the special didn't wind up on mainline TV, because instead, I think a lot of the build-up we got to this pay-per-view was just, it was 1 week stuff, wasn't it? It was here's a match, and these tag team partners aren't getting along. Oh, now we got a women's title match. It was a lot of that stuff, a lot of fast forward booking, I would say. Whereas the storytelling they did on the special on YouTube was probably the best they did. Not many people got a chance to see it. It was better even than a lot of the recent ROH Road 2 stuff. I was really impressed by it, and it gave a lot of these matches stakes that maybe might have sold a few more buys if it been able to be on TV.
100% agree with you there. The next match on 0 Hour was Trustbusters, which is Ari Daivari and Slim J for us ROH historians, Benno. The great Slim J from Special K is now back in Ring of Honor in 2022, teaming up with Ari Daivari versus Shinobi Shadow Squad, Cheeseburger, and Eli Isom. I said on Twitter that it's an authentic ROH show when Cheeseburger is on the pre-show. So Slim J, he had some good offense in this one. Cheeseburger and Eli Isom got a little bit of run, but this was all about kind of building up the Trustbusters, which seems to be kind of a big thing for Tony Khan moving forward. We've heard the reports about that as well. Burger put Slim J on the top rope, but Slim J hits a tornado double underhook suplex on Burger, and then Slim J hit a cutter on Isom, and Daivari came off the top rope with a frog splash on Isom for the victory, leading to the crowd showering Daivari with some boos. He got one of the bigger reactions for a heel as far as booing throughout the night, because there was a lot of love for a lot of different people on this show. But this was just a decent yet predictable type of tag team matchup. I gave it 2 3/4 stars. What did you think?
Yeah, I think that's about a fair rating. Mainly bizarre for the fact that Special K legend Slim J is on ROH in 2022. Who'd have thought he'd be the survivor? Well, I suppose there's Jay Lethal too as Hydro. But no Izzy, no Dixie. We got Slim J instead. And back in the day, he was a real innovator. He wasn't quite Amazing Red, but I went back and watched a lot of that early ROH stuff recently, and a lot of the things he does in the ring are very reminiscent of what Will Ospreay does now. I would bet you that Ospreay took influence. A few of his moves were definitely lifted by our Will as well. But yeah, it's cool to see him involved. What a group, him, Daivari, and Parker Bordeaux's been knocking around with them on Dark as well. It's just, you would not put those men together, would you? But yeah, good to see Slim J still around. There's a match. I don't think there's a huge amount to say. It was a tag match, wasn't it? Got some opportunity for Slim J to hit some interesting offense, and Trustbusters, look like a team that I've not seen a huge amount of, but look good. Look like a good show, and yeah, I guess we'll see more in longer matches.
Yeah, we should see what they're gonna do with the Trust Busters and Ari Davari. I think they either did the angle on AEW Dark, or they're about to do the angle where they kind of explain why they're called the Trust Busters. So we'll see how that works out for them. Next, this is where I felt like the 0 hour kind of picked up, because first we got this promo segment backstage. Lexi Nair interviewing another Ring of Honor legend, Prince Nana from Ghana, and he made his return to Ring of Honor, and he made a huge announcement that he had purchased Tully Blanchard Enterprises, and Prince Nana has returned to Ring of Honor and brought his embassy back. He was gonna be in the corner of Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony in the next matchup, and Jonathan Gresham in his ROH World Championship match. What did you think of Prince Nana purchasing Tully Blanchard Enterprises? As it seemed like there was no kind of, outside of that, there was like no mention of Tully Blanchard. He was like completely wiped. We didn't even get like an explanation. Like, I was just very much confused. Of course, over the next couple of days, the Fightfuls of the world, the Wrestling Observer, the PW Insider will probably have more on this. But what's your initial reaction to Tully Blanchard kind of being wiped now from Tully Blanchard Enterprises?
I want to be careful what I say about Tully Blanchard. Is that Chrissy Love's a big fan of him? I'm sure I've heard her mention him before. I don't want to face her ire over this, but I mean, he didn't work. This is an upgrade of like 100 levels. For people who aren't familiar with Prince Nana, massive part of the Embassy forever. Will always be a member. R.I.P. Jimmy Rave, the original incarnation. Will always be the best, but it was a big part of the peak era of ROH, that stable, and it was something that they, with varying degrees of success, tried to continue on through the years. So it's not even like it's just a retro thing. Embassy was kind of a constant in ROH for a lot of its lifespan. But Prince Nana, like as far as a character, as far as the promos, I'm looking forward to getting where he can be talking about Ghana, and he can talking about the bath salts and all of the great rewards and all of the women and all of the stuff he's going to be given his charges back home in Ghana. Like, I can't wait for all that to come. Like, Tully Blanchard always just like, I don't know, he just felt like when he was on Dynamite and Rampage recently, he was like a lost old man, like he'd wandered out of a home or something like that. It never really stuck with me, and it was strange that after he split with FTR, they had him doing this with ROH. I know ROH is already set up as like a B-level product compared to AEW, but I don't know, it felt low rent to me. I apologize for being so harsh on him, but it didn't work. No. And I'm glad that they've seen that and they've recognized it and they've moved on. Doesn't seem like it's a health issue or anything, bad like that. Just a creative decision that's got to be for the better.
Yeah, I think this was the nice role. And once again, this is kind of putting the ROH, old school ROH imprint on this new era with Prince Nana coming back. And I would say, like, I totally agree with your point that this immediately felt like an upgrade from the next match that we saw. I do want to highlight a couple of comments here. Bone Daddy saying, I thought it was so awesome. Him now owning Enterprises. Let's go. And then Brooklyn Bleak saying, damn, Gresham was on the auction block. Yeah, he just he got picked up. He just joined Tully Blanchard Enterprises, and now he's under new ownership already. But like I said, Tully Blanchard Enterprises is gone. The Embassy is here, and the Embassy was in trios action up next against a trio of indie darlings. You had Blake Christian, Tony Deppen, and Alex Zane versus the Embassy, the Gates of Agony, and Brian Cage. I already liked that this was obviously a move. This wasn't like day of that they changed this, because they already had the new video package. If you notice, the Titantron had the Embassy for both Cage and the Gates of Agony. So this must have been something that they had been working on for since I guess Wednesday, because Wednesday, when they taped Rampage, they had Blanchard with the rest of Tully Blanchard Enterprises in the press box watching Claudio's interview for Rampage. But here we are. This was a super fun trios match, though. I felt like everybody was highlighted. Alex Zane got to look good with his high flying and his unique look. You had Blake Christian come in for a great hot tag who's been killing it on the indie scene. But the highlight for the babyface team was Tony Deppen. Tony Deppen was just awesome with his facial expressions, whether it was selling the power of the monsters of the embassy. Great. We had the deadlift superplex by Brian Cage on Zayn. We had him doing a gorilla press on Deppen. In the end, Deppen tried to fight off the gates of agony and Brian Cage. Great facial expressions by him in that one. But then finally, they had Leona pick them up for a Dominator, and Cage kicked him right in the face for the win for the embassy. After the match, Prince Nana mockingly shook the hand of the unconscious Deppen. I thought that this was a really good, really fun trios match. I gave it 3.5 stars. What did you think?
Yeah, I love this. It's basically Team GCW, isn't it, against the embassy. I made up that Tony Deppen's getting work in this new ROH because it felt like there were rumors and innuendo and talk that maybe he talked himself out of an ROH gig. And I think for me and you of a certain generation, and Tony Khan counting that too, it'd be very easy to like with the embassy, just make this a pure retro ROH fest, and I'd take that. But I think you have got to appreciate the guys who were getting over near the the end of ROH's lifespan, and Tony Deppen was one of those key guys, and you do want to keep those guys around. So yeah, made up to see him back in the mix, and just an incredible technical wrestler, flyer. He can do absolutely everything. But yeah, great team. Alex Zane getting, like you say, in there to do some big spots. Blake Christian looking good as well. I think it was although it was a kind of an embassy showcase, because it was all about setting that up and making clear that Nana is now in charge. I think if anything, the stars of the match were those guys on the other side. They got plenty of time to shine. And yeah, if I was watching this as a first time viewer, I'd mainly be curious about seeing those guys. I'd say Brian Cage was an odd one in the match. Like I feel like they picked up his contract for what? The idea was that he was going to be a major part of ROH, and here he's on 0 Hour in a 6-man. Like, I don't know. Like, I still don't know why they did that. I don't think Brian Cage knows why Tony Khan picked his contract up, because I think he was expecting to leave as well. Yeah, whether maybe they've got major plans, to build up to the next pay-per-view with him. But yeah, it didn't feel like he was really a focused part of this pay-per-view build. And I think his placement says it all.
Yeah, that's very true on the Brian Cage part. I think that this matchup was to establish them in what they're going to introduce on the main show with the 6-man tag team championships. I think that was a big thing, but I do agree that I like the commentary kind of talking about Shane Taylor, which has my fingers crossed that we can get Shane Taylor in this ROH generation, because he was one of the guys who was on the rise at the end of the Ring of Honor run. I would say he was the best guy who could become like a new name to become Ring of Honor champion. So I would love to see him in here, and I liked commentary kept bringing him up when Khan was in there talking about his 6-man tag team title run. And Leona looked good for a guy who's relatively I've not seen much in. He showed good power, and he came off like a Samoan Savage as he was supposed to be. So I thought that was really good as well.
Definitely.
We got a hype video aired about Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. For two guys who are not known for their promo skills, this instantly got me interested in their matchup. Like you had Wheeler Yuta showing this more of like a cocky side, talking about that he brought up about the car accident for Daniel Garcia. Then you had Garcia. It was like they switched roles where Garcia is supposed to be the heel and Wheeler Yuta is the babyface. Wheeler Yuta came off like a heel, and then Garcia's talking about how Chris Jericho saved his life because Jericho donated to his GoFundMe and kept him afloat while trying to rehab from his injury, and that this was personal for him and he was going to take the pure title. He came off like the babyface in this video package, but it made me interested in their feud. Once again, this is another example of why this countdown thing needed to be on some type of AEW television.
Yeah, it gives some explanation as to why Garcia is in league with Jericho in the first place. Why is he doing the sports entertainer stuff? When, I'll talk about it more when we get to the match. But I don't know, him being in that Jericho group doesn't really jive with his overall character for me. But the one positive you can say is it is bringing more personality out of him. That is something I think I've got to concede is happening. And yeah, he's showing bags of it, and yeah, showing great promo skill. Really, I thought this was really good.
Yeah, he had another good promo during the show as well, which we'll get into. So yeah, he was on the money here on this show overall, whether it's in the ring, on the mic. But to end off 0 Hour, we had the women's division for Ring of Honor as Willow Nightingale went one-on-one with former NWA and Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion Allison Kay. Massive pop for Willow Nightingale as soon as she comes out, and it's clear that the ROH audience has really embraced her. Both women honor the code of honor. Allison Kay I thought was really good on the mat, using different submissions, and her transition into the submissions were very smooth. But Willow kind of just overpowered her, used her charm, her charisma, her speed, as well as her power. She hits a big old pounce with Caprice and Riccaboni hitting the period. I love that. I love this so much. And then she hit the wheelbarrow power bomb, aka Bay with the power bomb for the victory here. I thought that this was a really good women's matchup that finally put a spotlight on Willow Nightingale. I know that Tony Khan avoided kind of the question during the media scrum ahead of the show, but it's like a no-brainer. Willow Nightingale would fit in Ring of Honor, would fit in AEW. This needs to be the first person that he signed. If he's going to sign a talent exclusively for the ROH Women's Division, Willow Nightingale is right there. I thought that this was a really good match. Like I said, I gave it 3.5 stars as well. What did you think, Benno?
Yeah, the thing about Willow Nightingale is she's over. When she walks into the room, the atmosphere changes, doesn't it? The song, just kind of her general demeanor, and you can't say that about, unfortunately, all the women on this show. There were definitely points where the crowd weren't invested, in the women's action on this show, and they're invested in her. So yeah, feels like a no-brainer. They should sign her, and it did feel like the Willow Nightingale show. I was made up to, like you say, get the Monty Brown nod there. They put some respect on that man's name, as people should, should have been the feature star of wrestling, that bloke. But yeah, good to see his name being kept alive. And yeah, Willow Nightingale hits a hell of a pounce, so it works. But yeah, this was completely her show. I think the fact that she won in such fashion, went over and was over with the crowd, does give some hope that maybe if Tony Khan was considering maybe not, signing a full time, or not really making her the face of this division, which she should be. Hopefully he's thinking twice about that now.
Especially with the women that they had on the main card. No offense to them, but those are good women for right now, and to groom the women of Ring of Honor, if they're going to have Ring of Honor be their developmental, their NXT, that Mercedes Martinez, Serena Deeb are the type of women you want as champion right now, because they can have a series of matches with any of the women to kind of groom them. But if you're going to have a star of the future to put that women's championship on after them, Willow Nightingale is an obvious choice. So I'm hoping that that's the next move for them. Allison Kay, I know she's been getting used in NWA, but I'm just going to be honest, NWA is a dumpster fire. Would you mind if they kind of brought her in as another veteran for the Ring of Honor Women's Division?
Maybe to fill in the numbers, yeah. Keep her away from NWA, because you're right. What is that? It's like an alt-right anonymous meeting or something going on at NWA right now. I don't know what they're doing. Even Nick Aldis is trying to get out. Yeah, she'd be better off here.
That says it all. That says it all. Nick Aldis was basically he was the NWA supervisor. Yeah, he is NWA. So for him to kind of seem like he wants out, that says it all for me, apparently.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was the end of the matches on 0 Hour here. I got a couple of comments that we can highlight here. Yeah, we got Yozara saying, I can't myself figure out why TK wants to keep Cage. He can't be that big of an asset to potentially lose to WWE or Impact or whatever. Yeah. And he was already in Impact. So yeah, it's very confusing how they've used him so far. If they re-signed him for a year, I guess, to just keep him.
Hmm.
We also got Yaza. He says Willow's another one that I think should be signed if she hasn't already. She hasn't, so hopefully it's in the running in the future. And then also Roxy saying sign Willow. She already has more charisma than others like Statlander and Athena. That's arguable, but I would say there's some truth in that. So definitely
Agreed.
keep those comments coming. Super chat donations are appreciated as we're going to talk about the main show. They finished off 0 Hour with the hype video for Jonathan Gresham and Claudio Castagnoli. Yet again, I'm just going to say that video was excellent as well and a great way to close off the 0 Hour. And they wasted no time whatsoever. Gotta love the shock from Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni as they kicked off the show with the ROH World Championship match. Claudio Castagnoli accompanied to the ring by William Regal versus the ROH World Champion Jonathan Gresham. And yes, it was very notable from the very
Look at his
beginning
face.
of this. Yo, I was
He's
just
not
like,
happy.
I was like, no, I really want this to go 60 minutes and have Gresham retain. But I knew it just the moment he came out, I was like, oh, he's losing. He's definitely
Oh,
losing.
that's next level boo boo face. Like, just look at him, like, no mask, like you say, no big flag, no entrance jacket, just a t-shirt and a frown. Like, yeah, he's not happy about going out first there.
Oh man, I was just like, this is just really obvious what's about to happen here. I love
Oh,
the story of the matchup, despite Gresham's demeanor coming out, him attacking the leg of the larger Claudio, working those. He had very unique ways he would attack the leg as well as the arm. Gresham hit a hard chop at one point, which only made Castagnoli mad. Gresham continued with those chops until he got hit with a hard European uppercut. Gresham and Claudio kept countering each other until Castagnoli was able to hit hammer and anvil elbows to Gresham, and then just picked him up right away with the Ricola bomb for the 1, 2, 3, and Claudio Castagnoli, shock look on his face and everything. Finally, 15 years since the closest he came to winning the ROH World Championship against Takeshi Morishima. He has finally won a world title in Ring of Honor, in his first world title in his professional wrestling career. He sat there in shock with almost tears in his eyes, finally becoming a champion. Great celebration. Him just, you could see the pure joy on his face. He even had the soccer celebration in the crowd, to the hard camera and everything. And Claudio Castagnoli is the Ring of Honor World Champion. This feels like the type of guy that can really kind of be that anchor for this new era of Ring of Honor, a Ring of Honor original, winning the big gold here. I thought the match was great for what we got. I wish it was longer. I gave it 3 3/4 stars, so just below 4 stars in that great range. But I wouldn't mind if someone gave it 4 stars. It was great for what it was. I just wish it was longer. I wish it was more suspense in what was going to happen, because as soon as Gresham made his entrance, I was like, damn, I messed up by not just picking Claudio here.
yeah, you said like Claudio looked shocked when he won. He was the only man in the building who was shocked that he won. He's the only man in the world that was surprised that he won. Yeah, it was written all over Gresham's face. It's all over the booking as well. And I don't. There are Gresham fans out there who are gonna, be mad at, this disrespect and the fact that, we went out with it in the opener, didn't even have an epic, they didn't have much time, 11, 12 minutes. Like it feels almost borderline disrespectful, but really, like, has he gotten over when he's been in AEW? I know he's not had a huge chance, so there is that, but he's just been a guy. Yeah, I think with Gresham, I think if you're invested in ROH and you saw his rise to the top, you saw him as pure champion, and you were invested in that story, he was a great feel-good ROH champion for the season finale of the old ROH. If you were just an AEW fan seeing him turn up on your TV, you were like, well, who is this guy? Why am I supposed to care about him? He's, a solid technical wrestler who goes out there and has technical wrestler matches. There was no reason for him to get over anymore with that bigger AEW audience. It didn't seem like it was working to me. Didn't feel like the company had much investment in him. We had firstly, he comes in, he's a babyface, then he's with Tully Blanchard as a heel, then he's sold off to Prince Nana. He never felt like an important world champion from the outside. And I've got some doubts about maybe Claudio being the tippy top guy in a promotion. I guess we'll see what happens, but I think it was a no-brainer. Tony Khan wants to put the belt on one of his guys and wants to set things off the right way. And there was no decision other than putting Claudio over here. It had to happen. It's unfortunate for Gresham. Seems like he might have taken it badly personally based on the intro, and he deleted his Twitter as well, didn't he? Which is not a great sign. I hope the man's okay. But yeah, I think this had to happen, really, and it's unfortunate that he's kind of been the victim of it. He just wasn't the guy to be, I don't think, be champion going forward in this new ROH.
And I know he did an interview with Wrestle Purist yesterday before the show, and he even talked about how he hasn't really talked to Tony Khan, and he said he's only had like really, really short conversations with him. He wasn't sure how Tony Khan valued him, and the booking here, like you said, kind of showed how Tony Khan, the lack of value that he saw in Jonathan Gresham. Like I thought the perfect, in my opinion, the perfect result of this matchup would have been the 60-minute time limit draw, because you're starting off the show with it, and you want to build to Claudio kind of being the champion, because the whole story that they presented in the video package that I complimented that was so great was that Claudio has come close only once before. He's had other title opportunities, but in his mind, he's only was close once. So you want to have that illusion of him getting close again and going 60 minutes between him and Jonathan Gresham. That's the type of epic that would be for the Ring of Honor World Champion, and kind of would give you like we said, we're both ROH historians. Nothing says more ROH than a 60-minute time limit draw for the ROH World Championship. So to build that up, and I felt like the Claudio title win needed to close a show for Ring of Honor. Like having it at the start of the show, I saw people complaining about that Claudio's world champion, but he's still jerking the curtain basically. And in those WWE fans' minds, they don't understand that if you're not at the end of the show, you want to start the show. They think you're jerking the curtain if you're not closing off the show and you're the world champion. So all of that led me to believe that the right option here was a 60-minute time limit draw. And I'm hoping that, our doubts about Claudio in this position is wrong, and that he can really feel like the Ring of Honor World Champion, especially if they get a TV deal. He could be that face of the promotion. But all of that has the doubts, and why I felt the 60-minute time limit draw was the best result.
Yeah, it's one of them. I kind of feel like it's almost like in WWE, don't get me wrong, like the ins and outs of Cesaro, Claudio's booking, there were plenty of moments where they dropped the ball with him. But was he at the right level for what he is? Like, there's nothing wrong with being a great professional wrestler who gives you great professional wrestler matches and is a great hand in the upper middle part of the card. I don't think that part of it was a travesty as far as it's handled in WWE. But again, obviously the individual booking of some stuff, definitely I'd agree with the criticism of. He is a guy, I would slot in that place. Not dissimilar from Gresham, really. Like, I don't want to sound too negative on Gresham. While I do think it was the right decision to take the belt off him, Gresham has more value than Tony Khan seems to think he has. You'd want him around. Like, he should be, if it's pure champion, if it's up and around the card, giving you great technical matches, which we all know he could do, he should be there. But I don't know, I feel like, is he even going to be back? Like, it just really felt like a write-off, sending them out there and only giving them this limited amount of time. I was much lower on the match than you. I go 3.25 on it. It felt like a good TV match that had 15 more minutes in it at least, or to your point, maybe 45 more minutes in it to really get going and give you that, that great match. But yeah, really seems like they've got no real positive thought for Gresham, no real confidence in him. And yeah, it says everything that they did this. But yeah, hopefully Claudio, if he goes out there and just, he's over and has, great matches in this main event position. It's not like he's the AEW champion, he's the ROH champion. Maybe that will work, and depending on the opponents they give him and who they line up. Don't think a Gresham rematch is coming. I think it's going to be onto new and other things. I guess we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, sadly, like you mentioned, Jonathan Gresham deleted his Twitter following the ROH World Title loss. I am never gonna criticize anyone who deletes their Twitter because that's a cesspool
It's a good move.
sometimes. So I
Mm,
understand just getting the hell off of there, but
mm,
it doesn't look good for his immediate future in Ring of Honor or AEW. And I
mm.
was hoping that he could be one of those guys that could help, establish Ring of Honor because he had become the face. And like you said, they built that story of him as pure champion, working his way through the ranks and then getting up to the world championship. So it's just
Mm.
disappointing. It's disappointing to see that this is
It
how
is.
it ends.
I think
And we all
whatever we think, it's a bit of a slap in the face, isn't it, to someone who is invested in ROH? If you're someone who's been really into that last couple of years of ROH and Gresham and keeping the memory of even, the old school bells alive and all of that stuff, Tony Khan needs to be careful. There's putting, a new coat of paint on it and making this company your own, but you want to take those older fans with you as well. So, yeah, I think that'll be something that was probably really disappointing to the hardcore late era ROH fans.
100%. I did like Claudio in the post show scrum, kind of bigging up Jonathan Gresham, talking about him keeping the title alive when ROH was seemingly done for at the end of 2021. So hopefully we see Gresham in the future, whether it's in AEW ROH or if it's on the independent scene. He's had great work with Terminus. He's been all over the place, Impact Wrestling, GCW. So I would love to see him find a home that values him, unlike what it seems like Tony Khan has. We got Brooklyn Bleak in the live chat saying this really sucks because he was so ROH that he was going around everywhere putting on matches. Was he paying travel from his own pocket? Question mark. And keeping the company name out there. Yeah, that's why I said like I liked Claudio and them kind of bigging him up for that, but it just seems like Tony Khan didn't kind of take that into the account how they booked this whole thing.
No.
Roxy says, "What did this champ do to TK?" I don't know. I don't know if it's he's too small or like all those criticisms that we've been hearing about Jonathan Gresham. Ninja Martis making a good point. He says, "Man, Phil said it best. If Danielson can be just a wrestler, so can Gresham. He's better than anyone you can name between the ropes. Every company has pushed someone less than him." Damn. No, I mean, can't argue with that. It seems like it is an issue that Gresham doesn't have that big personality, that he's just a wrestler and people don't value him in that way, I guess.
That's okay, but can you build a company around it? Is he as
True.
good as Danielson? I mean, the one point I'd take from that, he's not as good as Danielson. He's
No,
very, very good.
no, he's not.
And that's not is that a slight to say he's not as good as the best wrestler in the world? I don't know, but I don't know. I think he's got more value than Tony Khan has given him. Is where I'd agree with that comment. Like that is absolutely true. And he can, you can have just a pure wrestler on your roster. Do you want him to be your world champion? I could see the argument not to.
Yeah. Very true. Pastor Cody Mitchell saying, "I loved everything. I was expecting the title match to go a lot longer, but still awesome." Brooklyn Bleak said, "Claudio is a heavyweight champ in only 4 weeks." Yes, 4 weeks. This is a lot faster than it took. It ever took in WWE. And CM mentioned it, the little elephant in the room that Tony Khan history doesn't suit. Tony Khan seems like he doesn't value or treat either black or women very well. And if you're both, unless you're Jade Cargill, it seems to be the damning thing. Like, yeah, it's sad, but it's true for all the compliments that we can give about Tony Khan. He needs to kind of improve on that state, in my opinion.
Definitely.
All right, but let's move on. Backstage, we got that Daniel Garcia promo we talked about earlier. He said he hated the ROH Pure title because no one wanted more ruse in wrestling, and the Jericho Appreciation Society was going to take the belt to the big leagues and smash it into a million pieces. I love this Garcia.
Amazing. This is the Garcia I want. None of the silly hat stuff. None of the Jericho stuff. I want this. I want him to be like the modern day Prophecy, where he's just like, these rules are stupid, aren't they? Why are we shaking hands? Why are we like, why is the 3 rope breaks in these matches? Like, I think that's great. I think, yeah, he's showing like that kind of douchebag, you know, gym bro, technical wrestler who's got the skill, but he maybe hasn't got the brain. Like, lean more into that. I want to see more of that from Garcia.
Absolutely. I think Garcia needs to be like a mainstay in Ring of Honor after this night with the promos and what he did later on. But first, before we get to that match, you had Dalton Castle and the boys. Now they have names now, Benno. They are Brandon and Brett Tate versus the ROH 6-man tag team champions, the Righteous, Vincent Bateman and Dutch. I love the Righteous entrance. I will say they just come off like a hippie cult, especially with the lady by their side as well. So very nice touch. Vita Von Star, she got involved. She hit like a nice little plancha onto the outside after Dalton started tossing boys around, grabbing boys and throwing them onto the Righteous. Dutch of all people hit a tope con hilo on the boys as well. The Righteous hit a series of moves on the boys and nearly got a 3 count, but Castle broke it up. Castle then got involved in the end, hit a huge German suplex on Dutch, and then hit the bangarang on Bateman to become the new ROH 6-man tag team champions, their second time as ROH 6-man tag team champions. This was just fine. This was a fun little matchup. Dalton Castle seems to gotta have his mojo back. This feels like pre-Final Battle 2017 Dalton Castle, in that he's showing more of that charisma that I felt like he lost during his ROH World Championship run, and I like this matchup because of it. I gave it 3 stars. What did you think?
Yeah, I think that's a fair rating. I think, yeah, with Dalton Castle, it did feel like the moment it came and gone with him. Like there was a point, 2016, 2017, where like he was really unfortunate not to get signed by NXT. Like there's an alternate universe where he gets the role Velveteen Dream got, and he's like, imagine like how like prime Full Sail NXT audience would have reacted to Dalton Castle and the boys. He'd have been so over. He could have had that run. Didn't happen for him. I think it's the world title run maybe not going great. The back injury, which it almost feels uncomfortable watching him sometimes because he still looks stiff when he moves. He has the big back support on. He just hasn't seen himself for years. And yeah, it does feel a little bit like he's got a bit of that mojo back, a bit of that confidence back, being used by, Tony Khan era ROH, because they easily could have forgotten about him. They've given him the boys back, which is great. Like, I love that. I hated it when it was just, it's like random trainees playing the role of the boys. Yeah. You want the proper stuff, the 2 lads, Brandon and Brent, do a great job cornering him in his matches, and the solid wrestlers in their own right. So yeah, good showcase for him, good spot for him on the card. And it did feel like one of those, it feels like one of those changeover matches where like the Righteous were probably only booked to come and drop the belts. Like, are they going to be back in ROH going forward? Feels very unlikely to me. They were just there to do the honors, move the belts on, and yeah, interesting. They are keeping those 6-man tags alive, but there's plenty of possibility out there, isn't there? Plenty of factions they could do some interesting stuff with.
Yeah, like you said, you mentioned earlier, the Trustbusters, they got Parker Bordeaux with them that they can use in here. I think that Dalton Castle and the boys will be a transitional tag team, transitional 6-man tag team champions, because I think they're going to move these titles to the Embassy, Cage, and Gates of Agony. I feel like that's kind of the long-term move. But for now, Dalton and the boys, that gave us a nice pop on the show. So I enjoyed the move there, but I saw it coming. I do agree. Righteous seemed like they were only booked for this one show.
Yeah. They just felt out of place, didn't they? Like they were from a bygone era, which they probably are.
Indeed, they definitely were. We got MCAT's kind of echoing on what we said earlier. The whole for diversity thing needs to stop. Yes, TK needs to treat the women a lot better. It's a whole thing. It's a whole issue that is kind of the glaring hole in TK's booking. I enjoy TK, but he's not he doesn't seem like he's a very good guy when it comes to building out stories. He has the people, the great performers that make it happen. Like when you have a CM Punk and MJF that can build their whole feud on their promo work, it works out for them. When they have an Eddie Kingston, a Chris Jericho, it works out for him. But as far as his strength, TK, is matchmaking. And he just doesn't value the women or a lot of the black stars in a way that he thinks that, wow, this is a great match with Lee Moriarty, or this is a great match with Thunder Rosa. He doesn't seem like in his mind that that's the real thing that he's saying to himself.
Yeah, it seems like he's trying. I mean, whether it's tokenism or not, but making sure that the Shane Strickland Keith Lee thing felt completely out of nowhere, but seems to be maybe listening to that criticism, whether he's reacting to it the right way or not. The women's division stuff, like, it just comes across like he's not a fan of women's wrestling, and it's always an afterthought. It's always, oh yeah, I suppose I need to book 2 women for this this upcoming pay-per-view and stuff, and it's not helped by the fact that I think on a lot of the big AEW pay-per-views, the women's matches are often the weakest. That's is that chicken and the egg? Whose fault is that? Is it the Bills? Is it the people he's putting in the spots? It feels like every time they bring in a big free agent like a Tony Storm and people like that, Ruby Soho, you think, okay, now the women's division's gonna have enough stars and gonna be pushed a bit more, and we're gonna get better matches, and it never seems to take, does it? I think maybe there's a fundamental problem there in the way the women are used and the way the women are booked. I think it's more complicated than just the wrestlers available to it.
That's a brilliant analogy. Is it the chicken or the egg? Is it the women are having these blazing matches, or is it not Tony Khan putting them in the position to do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you're same as me. You've been to lots of AEW live shows. I was at Double or Nothing. I was at Dynamite, Rampage. Every show, I mean, it's horrible to say it, but the piss break match was the women's matches. Like every time, like especially at Double or Nothing, the 2 main women's matches there, that was when most people left the seats, and that's not good.
And Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb was fantastic. I thought that was a great technical wrestling match, but sadly, the beginning of the match, like you said, you could see people were leaving or people were just quiet. And as the match went on, they got more into it, but that was all based on the build up to it as well, being god awful.
It's a real thing. People don't take it seriously. Like I say, people get up out the seats, they go and do something else. They don't react as loud. We saw that in this show as well. It's it's a real fundamental problem that they do need to fix.
Absolutely. Roxy saying, I would love a trios title for AEW. I mean, they have House of Black, BCC, Death Triangle, AC, and Red Dragon. I think it's coming with the return of Kenny Omega. I think Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are the anchor they've been waiting for to finally introduce the trios titles. Yoza kind of echoing what you said, Benno, saying, man, if Castle had gotten Velveteen James push, he could be a top guy on Raw today. Yeah, I think that he wouldn't have had that back injury if he's not trying to have Ring of Honor type matches to get to the world title and then after he won the world title.
Definitely, yeah. It's a whole different timeline that if that had happened, but hopefully it's not too little, too late for him now.
And then Yoza also pointing out, thank you for saying that, Ben. It's worth saying, even if it makes people uncomfortable, you can pick the booking to shreds, but that doesn't address the matches being 2.5 stars consistently every week. True.
And it's not always the way.
Yeah, it's not always the work, but I would say, like, right now they have a woman in the role as AEW Women's World Champion, Thunder Rosa, who can have better than 2.5 star matches, and he's just like, he's at the point where he's like, oh, I've been having 2.5 star matches for the woman. It doesn't help in the ratings, so I'm not going to do anything right now.
Yeah, I'm not going to give them more spots on the show. I'm going to put them in that same death segment every week on Dynamite. Yeah, it's but that feeds into it too. And whether it seems to be whoever's in the position, whether it was Britt Baker, or whether it's Thunder Rosa or whoever, it's the same story, isn't it? So yeah, it really needs a rethink. Maybe a separate booker for the women's division would help. Someone who's a fan of it, rather than Tony. Maybe that would be the route.
Yeah, I'm hoping Tony will allow like Omega to get back in there, because it felt like when Omega was still here that it was on the way up this time last year when Omega was there, and he still had his fingerprints in the women's division. And it seems like since he went out with injury, it's gone back to where it was in like 2019, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But this is where I felt like the show really picked up, Benno. First, we had a video interview from Jay Lethal and his new boy band, Boys to Giants, to Sanjay Dutt and Santam Singh, wearing the all white for the funeral of Samoa Joe. And then we got the ROH Pure Championship up for grabs. Wheeler Yuta with William Regal versus Daniel Garcia. The judges for the Pure matchup was Josh Woods, former Pure champion, John Walters, and Ace Steel. This one I thought was how they built it out was very interesting. Daniel Garcia being the grizzled heel in this one, Wheeler Yuta more of the popular one to the fans, but the fans got really behind Daniel Garcia throughout this matchup. But I would say number one, the thing that made this really, really good for me was the commentary. William Regal on commentary was tremendous, putting over Yuta, putting over Garcia, talking about the little things in the matchup, like when Garcia delivered a power driver to Wheeler Yuta, like we taught him how to turn his head so he doesn't take it too well. The two guys were doing more like technical wrestling, double wrist locks. Garcia bit the ear of Yuta at one point to get some boos from the crowd. Loved his facial expression after that, and I loved William Regal complimenting him on that, as well as his headbutt later on. Garcia hit some hard forearms to the ear of Yuta after that, continued to work on the vulnerability he created. Yuta grabbed the ears of Garcia while they were on the top rope and hit forearms to knock him off before hitting a drop kick off the top rope. Yuta got a great near fall with a German suplex into a bridge. Then they started exchanging submission attempts, and this is when the match went up a level. When you had Garcia busting out the Regal stretch, trying to talk shit to Yuta's coach in William Regal. You had Yuta busting out the Lion Tamer on Garcia to shout out his coach. Then Garcia hit that power driver for a 2 count. Then he decided to go for the Bryan Danielson stomps on Yuta, but Yuta spit in his face and then reversed the stomps, dodged it, and then trapped his arms into the seatbelt pin for the win in 17 minutes. The crowd were on their feet for this one. Really loved this. And Daniel Garcia used one rope break while Willie Yuta, the story of the matchup by William Regal was he was told by the Blackpool Combat Club that he had to wrestle his way out of everything and that he would use no rope breaks, which he didn't use one. I thought that this was excellent, and the post-match was even better with Yuta offering the handshake to Garcia, and Garcia not only flipping off Yuta, but flipping off the ROH logo as he walked to the back. I gave this match 4.25 stars. I absolutely love this. I saw you on Twitter where I do agree with you. Pure wrestling matches, pure rules matches don't always connect too well, but I thought that this was one of the better ones that I've seen in a while. What did you think, Benno?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, like the match ruled, like absolutely ruled. I contrast it with the match that comes after, and it was an unbelievable half an hour. Yuta and Garcia should be, this generation's, like Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, that kind of match in the mid card of ROH. Let's run this back. Let's do this every pay-per-view. I'll be made up with that. The chemistry they've got, the psychology they both have at such a young age. It was simultaneously a great technical match, but also a great like hard hitting match. Two disparate characters as well. Like we've been saying, Garcia's character work is like this heel who doesn't like the ROH rules or is going to be like the anti-ROH guy. Let's lean into that. Let's do it more. But yeah, the ROH pure title, like as an ROH historian, as you've labeled me, got the ROH belt in the back here. I'm a massive mid-2000s ROH fan. The dirty secret though is the pure title always sucked. It was like it doesn't work. It's an awful. The idea of having a pure wrestlers division is great. The execution was always terrible. The rules are what? There's a 20 count and no closed fists and 3 rope breaks, and every single pure title match falls into that trope of, oh, there's only one rope break left. And it's just not that interesting a story once you've seen it once. And it's so hard to creatively do anything with that. There's a place on a card to have a pure title. There's a way of doing it, but I would love to see the rules updated and just made for, rather than just doing it because it's what we did in the past, even though it didn't really work in the past. And ROH cut bait on the division when Nigel merged Nigel and Brian had their feud and the belts got merged. Like, it's a nice nostalgia thing, but I think it needs updating to modern day. Maybe there could be blood sport rules. Maybe it could be something along those lines, because the reason this match worked so well is exactly what you said there. They didn't do any of that. It wasn't any of that, there's no rope breaks left stuff. There was a nod to it in the fact that, like you say, Wheeler Yuta, was refusing to use any rope breaks. I suppose that's an interesting twist on it. But yeah, going forward, I'd rather just see it be the division for technical guys, for your Greshams, for your Utas, for your Garcias, for it to be a stylistic thing and move away from those retro rules that I don't think most people understand. And I think, if anything, Garcia's the babyface here for ripping into them and outright saying that in his promo. Did wrestling need more rules? Like, I love that line. Brilliant. He's completely right.
He is. He was on the money on the mic. He was on the money in this matchup. And to note, Roxy asking, Garcia joined Blackpool Combat Club. What's the limit of members you guys think is enough for Blackpool Combat Club? I loved William Regal's line about that, where they said, like, what about Daniel Garcia joining Blackpool Combat Club? And Regal was like, I don't want all the great wrestlers to join the Blackpool Combat Club, because then who are my guys going to face? That was a great line that explained it perfectly. Like, you can't have all the great wrestlers in the Blackpool Combat Club, because how is my guys going to get better by wrestling not great wrestlers?
That's it. Yeah. And I think you could. We all expected Garcia to be in the group at the start. You can't do it now, can you? I don't think that can be the end result here. But if he can be the anti-BCC guy, that'd be great too.
Absolutely. We got Yoza. He says, love the finish. Garcia went for a move Yuta had obviously trained to be familiar with, and he countered it appropriately. Excellent. Yeah, the psychology was great in this matchup. I would say probably the best storytelling outside of the main event was in this matchup. And we also got Ninja Morris, who says, sorry, Benno, I couldn't disagree more. Pure Division is the only different rules in US. They are wildly entertaining and fresh a breath of air in a card. I mean, maybe now, but I understand where you were coming from, where they had to retire the title because it didn't work in that era of Ring of Honor. I think now that it's old, it's new again.
Yeah, and fair enough. If you enjoy those matches, great. And John Walters was probably the best pure champion, and he did some fun stuff with the rules and that. But yeah, it got to that couple of year points, and they couldn't get any more life out of it. I think we're probably going to get that again. But what I'm not against is, having different rules. I just think you could be more creative with having different rules for your pure division than it just being built around rope breaks. I think there's a better way of doing it that maybe if Tony Khan could sit in a room with some guys and come up with, would be better than what they've got here.
Absolutely. Next up, like you said before, if you want the antithesis of what we just saw, it was this matchup. Rouge with Jose, the assistant, like that touch, L'affection Egonables being represented here, versus his brother, his younger brother, Dragon Lee. This is brother versus brother, so we got a show of respect from the beginning here. And then they just had this match that kept building and building. They exchanged mat wrestling at first, and then Rouge got frustrated and resorted to striking his younger brother. Lee responded by hitting a huge kick to the face of Rouge. Rouge responded with hitting a shotgun drop kick and a tope con hilo to a massive pop. And this is set the tone for the rest of the match, that you were just going to see bonker spots and bumps throughout, and it was very stiff. They had some vicious chops. Rouge was getting very cocky, and then Dragon Dragon Lee just started busting out some ridiculous moves, including one of the spots of the night where he sat Roosh on the ringside table, and Dragon Lee hits his infamous lawn dart tope suicida into the table through the ropes, crashing through Rush, which was absolutely insane. He then hit a double foot stomp for a 2 count. They exchanged strikes and suplexes. At one point, Roosh belly to belly suplex Dragon Lee off the apron to the floor. He put Dragon Lee back in the ring. He responded by jumping over the top rope and hitting a Hurricane Rana to the floor. Both men made it just in time before the referee's 20 count. We then got Roosh. He hit the bull's horns in the corner, and Dragon Lee became the first man in Ring of Honor history to kick out of the bull's horns. He then put Dragon Lee on the top rope, went for a superplex, but Dragon Lee cut him off with a double foot stomp on him, hanging in the trio wall for a 1 count. Dragon Lee responded with the Liger driver, and Roosh kicked out of that. Dragon Lee went for the insulator, but Roosh kicked out of that as well. Roosh then pretended to be knocked out to lure Lee in. He then put him into the corner with a super kick and then hit the bull's horn for a second time to win this match. Absolutely awesome match. Probably the best match I've seen Roosh in like 2 years, because Roos sometimes does not care that much and he just tries to rely on his charisma, but his brother just brought out a different type of Roos out of him, and this was, up to this point, my favorite match on this card. I gave it 4.5 stars. What did you think, Benno?
Yeah, I absolutely love this. It felt like, because Roosh came out, and I'm the same as you. I was like, oh, there's Roosh. You know, it was like I've sat through too many of those boring top of the card end of ROH matches that he was known for. Where, like you say, when he wasn't motivated, he didn't give a fuck. But he was out there here, and it felt purely to get his brother a job. Because like the two of them were out there and just did everything they possibly could to spotlight Dragon Lee. He did all, like you listed, you did well recapping it all of those nutty spots. That table bump was absolutely insane, absolutely the spot of the night. But creativity was on another level, and just that they were out there clearly trying to put Dragon Lee in the shop window and sell him to Tony Khan and get him that job. Because you forget Dragon Lee's so good sometimes, because he kind of, remember those the days of the matches with Hiromu when he was Kamitachi at the time. Yes. That's what this felt like. They go out there and they just go a million miles an hour, do a million moves, crazy bumps, drop each other on the necks, and then repeat the next month. That's what this Dragon Lee was tonight, and absolutely loved it.
Yeah, please sign. That's another person on this show I'm going to say. Tony Khan, please sign Dragon Lee. Because imagine, Benno, this Roosh with Andrade and Dragon Lee versus Death Triangle. Oh my God, wow. I got goosebumps thinking about that matchup. Tony Khan really wants to do this Roosh and Andrade versus Lucha Bros, which is one thing. And I think it can be great if we get this Roosh. But if we can get a trios match with those 6 guys, that will be the thing that puts the trios division on the mat and makes it nearly impossible for him to not have trios titles.
Yeah, just think of Dragon Lee and Phoenix on a Dynamite going crazy in the way only those two can. There's money right there, and I'm sure Tony Khan sees it. I think we'll see Dragon Lee on Dynamite sooner rather than later. But to Yuzura Hart's point there, I can see going Garcia Yuta over Roosh Dragon Lee, but this block, was absolutely the peak of the show. You can pick either match as to be your favorite of the two, but as an overall block, this was the peak.
Yes, this was definitely the peak of the show as far as back-to-back matches. Next up, of course, after 2 barn murders, what do? Let's throw the woman out there after that technical wrestling clinic with Garcia and Yuta and a bonker spot fest with Dragon Lee and Roosh. There was Serena Deeb getting her shot at the ROH Women's World Champion, Mercedes Martinez. This match started off slow with some good technical wrestling on the floor, on the mat. They started trading off mat work and different type of pinfall attempts and roll-ups. Martinez kept going for the spider German suplex on the top rope. She finally hit it and absolutely murked Serena Deeb, dropping her on her neck in vicious fashion. She then went for the surfboard dragon sleeper, but Serena Deeb bit her way out of it. She went for the Serenity lock, but Martinez was able to roll out for a 2 count. She then went for the OG drop on Deeb, and Deeb was able to kick out at 2. She went for the Brass City sleeper again, but Deeb was able to get her way out. But then eventually she was able to lock it in and make Serena Deeb tap out for the win to successfully defend the ROH Women's World Championship. This felt like one that Deeb should have won based on the fan response, because the only time that the fans really got into this was when Deeb was on offense, where it felt in the middle portion of this match that they had did a double turn, because Serena Deeb was like playing to the crowd and everything, and we had Serena chants and stuff. But I thought it turned out to be a really good match between the two ladies. I gave 3.5 stars, and they embraced after the match, showing respect to one another. What did you think, Benno?
Yeah, I think the crowd let this one down. They just didn't seem that invested in this match, and yeah, it felt like it was teed up for Serena Deeb to win the title. I thought there was going to be a clean sweep tonight of Tony Khan putting belts on people he wants to book more prominently going forward. Maybe just thought this will be one too many. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if next pay-per-view or on a Dynamite or on some other TV, Serena Deeb does end up winning the belt. Feels like the direction we're probably gonna go in, as unfortunate as that is for Mercedes Martinez. But yeah, it was one of them where they were working uphill. They were desperately trying to get the crowd back into this at various points. And yeah, that kind of weird double turn was something I had noted as well. Did seem to happen, and to be honest, was for the benefit of the match, because that actually got the crowd going when they were getting behind Serena Deeb. And if anything, they seemed quite disappointed when she didn't win there. But I think Serena Deeb I'd have as the the tippy top women's wrestler possibly in AEW in general. So if she's not going to be the top of that division, she should be the top of this one, and I could see that being in the near future. Really, I think Mercedes Martinez is as good as she is as a veteran who's been around the block and has been around for a very long time, and it's good for her that she's kind of gotten this run and is involved at this point. I don't think she's the long-term champion Tony Khan ROH needs or is going to want. I think it's going to be Serena Deeb's division. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. And I'm hoping that's going to be the case, because Serena Deeb has absolutely been killing it for AEW, and she deserves that role as ROH Women's World Champion. But we had 2 more title matches to get to. The semi-main event was Jay Lethal getting his shot at the ROH Television Champion, Samoa Joe. We got the hype package talking about their long history with one another, with Jay Lethal being the young boy for Samoa Joe, and being bitter ever since Joe beat him for the Pure Championship back in 2005. Lethal came out with his crew, Satyam Singh and Sanjay Dutt. Samoa Joe had a huge pop from these fans in Lowell, Massachusetts, and this match got going right from the beginning on the floor. These two just had just brawled on the outside. Lethal called for Joe's Olay kick. Joe responded with a huge chop and then kicked Lethal right in the face, Olay style, even though he didn't gear up. I think he felt this isn't an old school ROH crowd, so they're not going to get the signal to start singing Olay, 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 but that's fine. Joe looked like he was going to put Lethal through the table, but Satyam Singh came out of nowhere and attacked Joe. Before the referee was able to officially start the match, he made sure to throw out Satyam Singh, and then the match got going with Lethal controlling most of this matchup. Joe came back, hit Insiguri in a corner for a 2 count. Both men were trading off chops, and then the crowd really got into this matchup like near the end when Joe was going for the muscle buster, but Lethal slipped out. He hit the lethal injection, and Joe barely kicked out at 2. The crowd got on their feet for that one. Joe hit the STO in the corner, and then he went for the muscle buster, but then Sanjay Dutt came out, distracted the referee for Lethal to hit him with the TV title, and Joe kicked out of that one to even a bigger roar from the crowd. Lethal went for the lethal ejection again, but Joe caught him into the rear naked choke. Lethal hit a jawbreaker, went for a dragon suplex, but Joe pulled Lethal back into the rear naked choke, choked him out to get the victory here. This started off so-so, but really got going after that first near fall in the crowd, getting behind Joe. Really liked the last like 5 to 10 minutes of this matchup. I gave it 3 3/4 stars, very close to giving it 4 stars, but I thought that the first portion of the match you could throw it away, but the last 10 minutes were really good. What did you think?
Yeah, 3 3/4 is where I went with it as well. I think like Joe, it was kind of, I feel like at the start, you know, with the jump start and then brawling and Joe bringing that aggression, that was great. And then you're right, the match kind of fell into a bit of a slumber there, as it kind of does. I'm not a huge Jay Lethal fan, and yeah, some of his longer epics I've just not been a fan of over the years, and it felt like it was veering into that kind of territory. I think Samoa Joe is in a weird spot. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He's still got the aura. He's still Joe. Physically, it feel like, you know, we're nearing the end, you know, of Samoa Joe. Like, I think, you know, we don't have a lot of years left with him. And you want to be careful what you do with him. You know, he's got to be in there with guys where he can have maybe those short, intense bangers. And yeah, I think this match maybe ran a little bit too long. And I think that's what you're alluding to with the, you know, the early part of it. But yeah, once they got going into the near falls, fans were hugely into Joe. They were into Lethal as well, who I will say, to his credit, has carried this feud on his own, you know, pretty much, you know, for the last month or so on Dynamite and Rampage. Didn't love the shenanigans, you know, with the Satnam Singh stuff and that group in general. I just don't understand. Like, has there ever been a less intimidating big man than Satnam Singh? Like, I would rather have a shoot fight with him than with like than even Jonathan Gresham. I'd probably rather. I'd be more scared of him. I'd be more scared of like Jay Lethal. I'd be more scared of Sanjay Dutt than I would be Satnam Singh. He doesn't come across threatening, and he doesn't come across. He's just a nice jovial guy, isn't he? He just happens to be tall. I don't think he works in this role, and I don't think there's the potential for him to ever be anything wrestling based on what we've seen so far. He's another feckless 7 foot tall bloke, isn't he? Like, are we not past that point in wrestling? Like, this isn't a Vince McMahon promotion. Why are we doing it in ROH and AEW? Like, I think they need to cut bait on that group in general. I think Jay Lethal can do more interesting things on his own, away from them too. I don't know if that's a controversial take.
No, I think the Lethal Sanjay partnership could have worked.
Maybe Sanjay,
Adam Santam Singh kind of drags them down. I do agree there. Rent. Like, yes, and I felt like they did a great job of making this feud seem like it's been like this long-term thing, and seem like it's the type of build that really kind of deserve like this high of a spot on the card. But it's literally been 7 weeks of Jay Lethal cutting the same damn promo on Dynamite and Rampage. Like, I was getting tired.
Get Joe to sit down and do a sit-down promo or something like. It was weird.
It was like, you did all of that for the countdown. Why we couldn't get one of these promos for a Dynamite?
Throw some of them clips, yeah. Remind us what he looks like, you know? It's like Chris Daniels is carrying the feud. It was odd. That was very odd.
Very odd how they built to this one. At this point, Ian Riccaboni ran down the card for a Dynamite Fight for the Fallen with a huge announcement. Bryan Danielson will be making his return against Daniel Garcia. Oh man, if you enjoyed the wrestling on this show, this immediately made me more interested in Fight for the Fallen. You're also going to see Jon Moxley defend the interim AEW World Championship against Roosh. And if like, I'm going to keep saying, if we can get the Roosh from Death Before Dishonor, that should be another great matchup on this show. So hopefully, Dragon Lee, like, he's the Midas touch for Roosh, so we can get the Roosh that we saw on this show on that one. But it was finally time for the main event. FTR defending the ROH World Tag Team Championships against the Briscoes in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Right from the beginning, these fans were on their feet and loud. They were ready for this one. And at this point, I was like, man, this show has breezed by. We got like an hour left in the show. They're giving this to this match 60 minutes. I can't wait. The fans were chanting ROH loudly at the bell. They rang the bell with all four men in the ring staring down with each other. And then they just went out there and just had a viciously intense matchup, whether it was Harwood in the ring with Mark Briscoe, whether it was Dax in the ring with Jay, or Cash in the ring with Jay. There was just different type of dynamic to all of this, and all of it was very fun, very interesting, and stiff as a motherfucker. Like, these chops in this match from both teams were vicious. Dax came in with a nice little hot tag. He hit the fake punch into the DDT like Arn Anderson for a 2 count on Jay Briscoe. Hardwood was slingshot into the corner, leading to Mark Briscoe being able to hit the Doomsday device on Dax Hardwood for the first fall. And you had the Briscoes, of course, with their famous catchphrase, two straight. We made this bitch 2 straight. And then
Here
Mark
comes the sweep.
Briscoe. Yes, I loved commentary as well. I think it was Ian Riccaboni talking about Mark Briscoe once had the largest measured hands in the Ring of Honor locker room. So that made it even more realistic when these hard ass chops split open Dax's chest. Oh my god. I was like, this is getting intense. The more it goes on. At that point, Bobby Cruz let us know it was 20 minutes past in the time limit, 40 minutes to go. We got some brawling on the outside with all four teams going all over. We had Jay Briscoe and Hardwood fighting into the crowd. We had brawling like in near the timekeeper's table. You had Caprice Coleman saying Spanish announce table. I don't know where it's at, but Spanish announce table, not our table. Then you had a flapjack on. They hit a flapjack on Mark Briscoe on the steel steps. They already hit Cash Wheeler with the bell shot, and that split him open. Mark Briscoe was split open on the steel steps, and then FTR managed to bait Jay Briscoe into the big rig to even the score at 2 falls. Then we got the big four-way between all four men before the third fall, and then we just got some crazy brawling, some crazy strikes and capture suplexes. Chops were viciously being exchanged. Jay Briscoe kept going for the J Driller, but Hardwood fought out. He hit a power driver perfectly, Bret Hart style, for a 2 count. The Briscoes went for another Doomsday device, but Wheeler shoved Mark Briscoe off. FTR went for the big rig, but Briscoe fought out. Hardwood accidentally punched the referee right in the face, and Jay Briscoe then hit the J Driller on Hardwood, but the referee was out, so Jay Briscoe was able to get the visual pin. I thought that was very interesting and I usually don't like referee bumps, but when it leads into something interesting that can lead to a rematch just on that spot alone, I had to write that in my notes. I did enjoy that referee bump just for that reason. FTR had almost got a 3 count when the referee came back in, but Jay Briscoe was able to kick out. Hardwood went for a superplex, but Mark Briscoe was shoved Wheeler off the top rope when they tried to go for the powerplex. Jay Briscoe fought out of the superplex, and then they got Hardwood with another Doomsday device, but Wheeler broke it up. At this point, they had the 40-minute call of the matchup. Dax Hardwood and Jay Briscoe started brawling with each other. The Briscoes once again were going for the Froggy Bow combination, but Wheeler cut off Mark Briscoe on the top rope, hit a back suplex through a table at ringside. So it came down to Hardwood and Jay Briscoe. Jay Briscoe hit another J Driller on Dax and he kicked out. Briscoe went for yet another J Driller, but Hardwood kept faking out like he was knocked out. He then fought out of it. He put Jay Briscoe on the top rope. They were fighting on the top, and then finally Dax hits an avalanche power driver off the middle rope to win. FTR with a great fall where Dax Harwood just flipped himself over. He's face down and just had his feet over Jay Briscoe's shoulders. A 45-minute war that was absolutely perfect. This was everything you could have wanted out of this rematch after their match of the year in April in every single way. Post-match, the FTR cut a fabulous promo. Dax Harwood saying, I love motherfucking professional wrestling. They thanked the Briscoes, had them come into the ring, showed the respect to the Briscoes, had the fans chant for them. As FTR was celebrating, out came the Blackpool Combat Club with their championship gold, kind of teasing maybe all four champions for the tag team titles at the next big ROH show, possibly. So that was a nice little tease at the end. But my lord, Benno, match of the fucking year. I didn't know if they could do it. The first match was my match of the year, but I felt like this match was just as good, maybe even a little bit better. I gave it 5 stars. What did you think?
Wow. I mean, it's a hard task, isn't it, to get out there after that match, kind of. I think we all expected to be good last time out, and then, like you say, it became a absolute match of the year contender, and we were all raving about it, and it couldn't have been more perfect. So to send them out there again this soon, it's a good, gimmick for the pay-per-view. It's a good selling point, but is it a good idea for the wrestlers involved? Because what do they have to do to equal that first match? And yeah, I think throwing the 2 out of 3 falls step on it gave it those extra stakes and made it feel like a more epic match. But even that's its own challenge, because naturally this is going to be a long match. Naturally the crowd are going to know, okay, we've got 3 calls to come. Are we gonna stay with this? Are we gonna, okay, yes, the first fall, let's get hot for that. But you can lose the crowd, I think, often in these types of matches in the second fall, because it almost feels like it's gone out. Of course, the team who didn't get the first fall, get the second one. But I think they managed to navigate their way through those tropes. I think I'm a bit more with Yuzura Hart. I think I did prefer the first match to this, but it was a absolute worthy, successor. It's 2 of the best tag teams in the world going out there and just leaving everything, and I mean everything, in the ring. Talk about the blood coming from those chops, the hard hitting strikes, the poor Mark's head going through that table on the outside. Like, they just threw absolutely everything at this match. I was going in thinking maybe there'll be a third, like someone's saying in the chat, maybe we'll get a 60-minute match, maybe we'll get an Iron Man tag or something like that. Maybe we'll get that one day in the future. But like, what more could they do, than they did in this? They did literally everything. And I think it's amazing to see it, 2 teams like this. And the last one was the first time meeting to just walk in there and have such good chemistry. And that's the thing. These are probably the 2 best tag teams in wrestling. The Briscoes have been the best, you throw the Young Bucks in there too, obviously, but the Briscoes have been this good, for 20 years now. And FTR, they're riding a real high right now of momentum. Like, compare them now to where they were, this time last year. It's a delight to see them on any other wrestling show, and you're seeing them at their peak. You're seeing Briscoes at their peak that never seems to end. And tag team wrestling, baby, and that's what this was. And it reminded me so much of those old ROH shows where you could main event your show with a singles world title match, but you could easily throw the Briscoes out there, give us 2 out of 3 falls, put them against the tag team of the week, and that can main event it as well. And that's what I want ROH to lean into more. I'm shocked that hasn't happened in AEW yet, that they haven't put maybe put the tag belts over the world title. Tony Khan seems a real stickler for putting the singles men's world title on last on his shows, but with ROH, like, this could be the way forward. Let's make this the FTR and Briscoes show and give us more of this, bring in more tag teams, and let's do it again, because it was awesome. And it's a absolute, people haven't watched this match, it's an absolute selling point of the show, and it was definitely the match of the show for me too.
Absolutely, I'm not even going to ask that question at the match of the night. If you don't have this match as your match of the night, you watched a different show. Because I mean, not to say that though, because I know some people may
Rush
have
Dragon Lee too.
Rush and Dragon Lee, just as much, because I gave that 4.5 stars. Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia, like you said, there was 3 great matches on this show, but if you enjoyed that first match, I don't understand how you can enjoy this one, because they added the blood to it. It felt like more of a personal rivalry at times as well as it went on. You had the Briscoes kind of teasing, going heel with the bell shot and stuff. There were so many little things. I think the only thing that they could make it more in the Briscoes' favor is there's one other match that is their specialty, and that's ladder war, and that's out of the FTR wheelhouse, because we've never seen FTR in a ladder match.
Yeah, that could be really different. Like that would be interesting to see how they apply their like storytelling and like their more like methodical tag wrestling style to a ladder match. Oh, I think I'd like to see that. Yeah, I think that'd be good stuff. Maybe that is a way of doing it. You know, giving it a fresh spin on it and doing something different and having that final blow off. And yeah, ladder war is baked into the history of ROH. So yeah, I'd take that.
I'd be ready for that one. But this is how we usually do things here, Benno. Let's put our thumbs in the middle. We're going to give this show a thumbs in the middle, thumbs down, thumbs up for ROH Death Before Dishonor 2022 in 3, 2, 1. Thumbs up all around from both of us. I think we both kind of said it. FTR Briscoes 2 is the match of the night.
Yeah, I think so, but I think I'd maybe go closer than you. I think yeah, I could have made the argument for Russian Dragon. They could maybe have made the argument for the pure title match as well, but this felt like it was to give me matches those as good as those three. You know, it's a home run of a pay-per-view, isn't it? You know, there were varying degrees of quality across the rest of the card, and some matches that maybe didn't need to be there, but all in all, like those three matches plus above 4 stars for all of them, that's a win and big thumbs up from me.
Yes. And to answer Ninja Mortis, yes. I have 2 kids, but you always know if there's someone doing some bad stuff in the background, it's usually my daughter Harlem. And yes, she was trying to press the vacuum as my missus had to stop her a few times there. And MCAS mentioning a good thing that I didn't even think about. Imagine this, Beto: Punk and FTR versus Moxley, Claudio, and Danielson. Oh my god. Oh
yeah,
my
we need them 6-man belts in AEW ASAP. Let's do that. Bucks and Kenny, throw them in too. Oh, Punk and FTR as a 6-man unit at once. I want to see the Briscoes on Dynamite and Rampage. I'm sad that's probably never going to happen. I'd love to see them in the mix with those types of guys. I know the reasons, but yeah, that'll be killer too.
I hope now that they are signed to Ring of Honor officially, they can find a way around that in some way. I would hope that this means that Warner Media is a little bit, off that pedal as far as that in that regards, and that we could see the Briscoes, mix it up with the Lucha Bros, go up against, a private party and stuff like that. I would love to see that. We got a super chat donation from Roxy. Thank you so much, Roxy. The last call for super chat donations. We always appreciate that. Helps out the channel so much. Roxy says, do you guys like FTR versus Blackpool Combat Club? I don't know how I feel about it because I wouldn't want either to lose.
Yeah, that'd be rough. Yeah, it depends what combination of Blackpool Combat Club like we were saying there. I guess based on the end of the show, I think that is a problem. There aren't any other obvious ROH tag teams that FTR can go against other than the Briscoes. So maybe that is why we're getting Claudio and Yuta. But yeah, I think they'll do that. They'll do all the belts kind of in the match, and I imagine FTR would go over, but can you see them taking the belts off them and putting them on and Claudio and
I can see them doing it.
Why you wouldn't want either to lose, yeah.
I can see them doing it like whoever loses, they take that title and have Dax pin Wheeler Yuta. Imagine Dax in Pure Rules.
Yeah, they could do something with that. Yeah, that could happen. But yeah, you are booking yourself into a little bit of a corner. So yeah, maybe doing it with all the belts isn't the bright idea. But I'm sure they could book their way out of it.
Yeah. And we also got MCAS says TK said in the scrum that he sees it as a possibility for the Briscoes to be in AEW. Hoping for that for sure. King David says now just make FTR Briscoes in a cage match, but 60 minutes, that would be golden. Cage match, I didn't think about that. That's another option as well.
I think whatever happens, the visual is going to be all 4 of them bleeding. Like it's going to be that type of match, isn't it? Drawn out war. Maybe a cage is the place to do that. Yeah, I wouldn't be against that either. Yeah, let's do it.
And that's that. And they have the reason to do that because both of these matches have gone all over the ringside area, so they want to keep it all in the ring, have it inside of a cage for sure. Now, MVP and LVP of the show, Benno. As far as LVP, I'm gonna have to go. A few people, Tully Blanchard, It's an LVP. Even though he wasn't on the show, he was removed from the show. So I gotta go LVP Tully Blanchard and the Righteous because they were kind of lame duck champions on this show. What about you?
LVP, Satnam Singh, get him the fuck out of here. Like, it's cut bait. Whatever money you're paying him isn't worth it. Like, it's never happening. And we can all see it. Most valuable player, I'd say Daniel Garcia. Like, genuinely, like, as good as the other matches were, as far as like his character work, the couple of promos we got from him in the video package and the standalone promo, plus even his work in the scrum afterwards. And I always love, and I know you've been at those things where, like, people come in and they're giving kayfabe answers and, playing characters like Jay White did. Not always great, but I did get a big kick out of Daniel Garcia crashing that and being the anti-ROH guy. Like, there's a lot of mileage in that. So I really enjoyed the one this night.
I love Daniel Garcia after the show. I totally agree with you. I went co MVP as well with Garcia, and I gotta give it up to Dragon Lee for bringing this Roosh to us. I keep saying this Roosh is what I want to see in AEW. If we can get this Roosh, Dragon Lee needs to get signed for bringing us this Roosh. And Daniel Garcia, 100%. He was amazing throughout this entire show. And I'll throw in Claudio Castagnoli for finally winning the big gold here. So we did it all for ROH Death Before Dishonor 2022. Thank you all for joining us. Benno, please let the people know where they can find you on social media and all the great things you're doing, post wrestling, GRAPPL app podcast. Let the people know.
Thank you. Yeah, you get me on Twitter, as on the screen, at Benson Richard E. Over on GRAPPL, we do a podcast every Monday night where we cover the whole world of wrestling. I think in a similar style to what you guys do in the flagship True Heel Heat show. So yeah, you can check me out over there and download the GRAPPL app, GAPPL, where you can throw in your ratings for this show and anything else you happen to be watching as well. But yeah, thanks for having me as always, SP3.
Always enjoy talking some wrestling with you, Benno. Of course, we're going to have you back in the future for sure. Want to thank everyone for joining us in the live chat. Couple of comments to feature here. Match of the night, FTR Briscoes. Ashvin Nash saying LVP, Tully, MVP, Claudio Castagnoli. You, my boy Blue, preaching, saying Dax Harwood continues to look like a star, continues to look like a wrestler of the year contender for sure. And then you can follow me on the Twitter machine at True Heel SP3. Follow the gang Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at True Heel Heat. Patreon.com/True Heel Heat for more additional content. $3 a month. We got and New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 Climax reviews over there. Our True Heel Heat Prediction Championship, which I'm still in the lead of. Just want to mention that. ProWrestlingTees.com/True Heels for more True Heel Heat merchandise. And we're kicking off SummerSlam week coming up next week. We got our SummerSlam preview. We're gonna have a SummerSlam watch along. We'll have a watch along for Ric Flair's last match, and of course, check out True Heel Heat 185 from yesterday. Hell freezes over in Stanford, aka Bon Voyage Vince. Yes. So for Benno, it is me, your True Heel Phenom, SP3. This has been our ROH Death Before Dishonor 2022 Roundtable Review. We are signing off until next time.